desks, tables, etc. Of the presentation, so you can kind of follow along. It will not take me very long, and I expect there'll be some questions, but I hope I get through most of them. I was doing my morning reading this morning, and this came across, and I just thought it was perfect, especially the way the last couple of weeks have been leading up to the break. But the quote was, "Ships don't sink because of the water around them. Ships sink because of the water that gets inside them. Don't let the negativity outside of you get inside of you and drag you down." So I just thought that was a really awesome quote, and I wanted to share that because I have a tendency sometimes to let some of that negativity get to me. And I'll be honest, I kind of did leading up to yesterday. All right, so I have a little video clip for you guys just on classroom management, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it when it's done, but just watch and enjoy.
You know, just last night I spent the evening brushing up on my algebra skills.
You're teaching American history.
Good to know. What's that noise? I'm kidding. Yeah, wish me luck, Aunt Kate.
Oh, come on. A man who saves a family of 5 from a sinking canoe does not need luck.
Class, as you know, your regular teacher, Mr. Cornell, is still suffering from dehydration. So I'd like you to welcome your new substitute teacher, Mr. C.J. Barnes.
Yo. What's 411 in here? What's the dealio? Can I get a wah-wah?
You said your cousin was cool. This is him being cool.
Ms. Barnes, class is all yours.
Yes, thank you, Principal Gibb.
Up there.
American history. What is American history? It is the history of America. Today, we are going to talk about the free silver. Guys, class. All right, keep studying. Keep studying.
Congratulations. Lasted longer than most.
Kidding? My God, these kids are animals. No wonder the Japanese beat us to the moon.
First day, when you go back in there, you show them that you're the boss.
Right, I tried clearing my throat. I got nothing.
Yeah, that's really my thing, okay? You kind of got to come up with your own signature thing.
I can make one eye go lazy. I can do that to the zippy lip. I'll figure it out. Guys, can we get some quiet? Okay, let's talk about the populist movement. Anyone want to talk about that? You, sir?
I don't know about the populist movement, but I can tell you about the bowel movement.
Good stuff. Nice. You said bowel movement. It was good. I liked it. I laughed. What else you got, Seinfeld?
I don't know.
You don't know? Come on, man. You gotta keep them coming. You're the class cut-up, aren't you? Always making fun of the sub. Oh, he's a nerd. You know, I know that 'cause that's what I used to do. I was a sub's worst nightmare. But those shenanigans will not cut it here today, gang. Because trust me, whatever you've done, I've done it better, louder, and with a pocket full of roosters. We got there. Ooh la la. What is this one? July? I don't have this one. Yeah, now I do. Nintendo? More like Nintendo. What we got here, ladies? Do you think Billy likes me? We got a Billy in here?
Yeah?
Billy, you like her?
No.
like this girl? You, sir. Hey, not exactly DiCaprio, but take it. All right. Well, now, eliminate's over. All eyes up here. My name is Mr. Barnes, and I mean biz. All right? If anyone's asking or thinking about it, this is just water from the bathroom. That's right. Now settle down and open your books to page 72. Here we go.
Okay, so I know that was kind of silly and everything, but when I saw it, it kind of made me think of when I started teaching, and you really kind of have to, you get all these strategies about classroom management, and you hear about it when you're in school, and you student teach, and they talk to you about classroom management, etc. But until you really make it your own, you're not successful. And that was yes, it was silly, and I'm not saying I don't want anybody to go back and start calling people out for who they like or anything like that, but it is kind of, it illustrates how we're able to kind of make the classroom our own, and that when we do that and when we're comfortable with that, then we're going to be great moving forward with learning, which is what we all are here to do, is make sure that we're teaching and that learning is happening in our classroom. So this whole thing that I'm going to talk to you about today is a support system to help you with your classroom management. Some of you have already been a part of the PFI process, so you know what it is. We're reviving it and bringing it back, so I'm going to kind of define it for you and let you know exactly why we're doing it and how it's going to be implemented moving forward. So the CCRPI score that we get every year is calculated by these 4 things that we have listed. We have the survey, we have student discipline, safe and substance-free learning environment, and attendance. Okay, those are 4 of the things that are calculated for CCRPI. The second one, which is student discipline, it says a measure of student discipline using a weighted suspension rate. Those suspension rates include in-school suspension and out-of-school suspension. So what that means is every time we have a referral in the system and the response to that referral is in-school suspension or out-of-school suspension, that score is weighed into our CCRPI score. So this whole deal is trying to kind of cut down on those referrals that we have. All right, so some stats from last year that I pulled. As a school, we totaled 591 office referrals last year. 336 of those were in regular education classrooms in the school. 198 of these were considered level 1 or minor incident referrals, and I'm going to talk about minor incidents in a second. Okay, these stats really jumped out to me. That is a lot of office referrals, and it's something that I feel like we can definitely work to cut down on this year. So as I started looking at these stats and trying to think to myself, what can we do? Because I know, we've got great teachers in place. We've got so many awesome things happening at Centerville. What can I do to put some things in place to kind of help and support that classroom management? So this is kind of where we're going to. All right, so the plan for improvement, which is a PFI system, is basically a systematic behavioral process that gives students sequential consequences for minor or level 1 behavioral events. They allow teachers to take more ownership of the development of student behavior. They give specific consequences for specific infractions for students. They make the disciplinary process clear for the students as well as the parents by opening a continuous line of communication throughout the PFI process. Every time something goes on with that student and they receive a PFI, it's open communication between you, the student, and the parent. And then finally, they help to reduce the amount of office referrals by going through that sequential process, and that can directly affect or impact our CCRPI score, hopefully in the positive. Okay, so the implementation, kind of how this supports what you're doing. They're not meant to replace any of your current classroom strategies, okay, or your management strategies. They're there to support what you already have in place. So I know we have a couple of different things going on here as far as our classroom management. We have clip charts, we have Dojo, and we have debit systems, okay? These PFIs are meant to support you in that range, okay? So, your clip charts, if they clip down 3 times, that'll be 3 minor incidents. That's one of the disciplinary things that's on your PFI chart. So if you have a student that clips down to that point in class, they're going to automatically get a PFI, and all you have to do is check they had 3 minor incidents in class. Same for your debit systems and your dojo points, okay? It works alongside of what you already have in place. So we're not eliminating what you do in class as far as your disciplinary strategies and your management strategies. This is just a support system to go along with that. Okay, so in the very back of your presentation, or your printouts, you have a copy of the PFI. You're all going to receive copies of these in your box when you get back from the break. But this is what it looks like. It's actually very similar to the one that was here years ago. Up top, you have your minor incidents that are up here. This is your level 1 stuff. And level 1 is what we're going to consider a PFI to be for. Okay, so level 1, and I've got a slide that talks about it, but you know, level 1 are your minor incidents, what you deal with throughout the day that can be addressed by you as the teacher rather than by an administrator. Okay, there's going to be some times where you're not sure, and if you're not sure if a situation calls for a PFI or an office referral, just ask. Okay, it's that simple. Just shoot an email, ask us to come down, and we'll clarify it for you. Okay, generally, if you're not sure, it's probably going to go ahead and come to me. All right, I'll just go ahead and tell you that, and that's okay. But generally, if we're not sure about something, just ask and we'll definitely take care of it. Okay, so the next thing after you've selected what you have here, you're going to have some teacher comments where you can write 1 or 2 sentences about what happened. Then right here you have a number of PFIs, okay? So the original PFI system called for a student to be able to get 6 PFIs in a grading period. So that would be 4 rounds per year. I've shrunk that down to 2 in a year. All right, so from now, or actually when we get back from the break until Christmas, is going to be kind of our trial period. All right, so we are going to allow them to have up to 6 between October and Christmas, but that's our trial period. Okay, when we get back from Christmas break, January to May, they can get up to 6 before it turns into office referral. Okay, is that clear to everybody? All right, so you also have a tally sheet that's in the back of your presentation to kind of help you keep up with the PFIs per student. But you'll select which PFI it is for the student. You'll have a student plan for improvement where you could write a brief statement and then the student writes a brief statement on how they plan to improve their behavior. And then down here you have the consequences, so it's very clear. If you're on number 2 and you decide to do recess detention, 1 to 3 days, that's at your discretion, however many you want to do there. You just put the dates in, and then there's a place for you to sign it, the student to sign it, and then the parent sign it. Okay, so every single time, you're going to have that open communication, all right? When you contact the parent for a PFI, just as you've always done, put it in the contact log, and it's there. My wife's at Northside Middle. She has they have a similar process. When she puts it in the contact log, she puts, I don't know, they don't call them PFIs, but she puts PFI number 2, contacted parent. And that way when it's pulled up, you know exactly how many times they've been contacted over PFIs, and it's very easy for administration or anyone else to be able to see that and know exactly where we are in the process, okay? All right, I talked about a lot of this already. The PFIs will be kept by the homeroom teacher of the student. All right, so PFIs can be given by specials teachers, but after the specials teacher has given the PFI, contacted the parent, dealt with getting the PFI returned, it always goes back to the homeroom teacher. Does that make sense to everyone? That way we don't have, well, Johnny's got 2 PFIs in specials and he's got 3 PFIs in class. No, they're all going back to the homeroom teacher. We're going to hang on to them. But just because the specials teacher gave Johnny a PFI doesn't mean you have to contact the parent. Whoever gives the PFI is the one that contacts the parent and makes sure that that form gets returned. It just needs to go back to the homeroom teacher. That way we are all on the same page with where the PFIs are going to be kept and who's got them on file, so we can go back and check and see numbers, tallies, etc. As I said, each parent contact should be documented and always in IC. We've done that already. Each time a student receives a PFI, there are different and harsher consequences for the student, and this is just the progressive disciplinary actions that are on the PFI sheet. Some of them are at your discretion. So, for instance, the 3rd PFI, parent contact and conference, that can be a phone conference, and 3 days of recess detention or 1 day of after-school detention. That's at your discretion, okay? The reason that I gave a little freedom in there is because sometimes we have a really hard time with parents dealing with after-school detention. They just they won't do it, okay? So you can kind of deal with that, or if you say, no, I want it to be after-school detention, and that parent refuses it, then it comes to me, and I'll deal with it from there, okay? But that's at your discretion. And this is what we're going to go with right now as far as the consequences. If it's something that we need to look at maybe in January and modify, we can do that, okay? But this is how we're going to start the process and see how it goes. All right, these are kind of the examples of the level ones. Disrupting class, talking obsessively without permission, getting out of seat, etc. You can read through those yourself. I talked about a lot of you having the 3 clip downs or 3 debits or whatever. That's the 3 classroom offenses in 1 day. So you could just check that, be specific in a sentence or 2 of what they did, and then that'll be very clear to the parent as far as what happened that day and why they received a PFI. Okay, so when you get back from the break, you're going to have PFI forms in your box, so you can go ahead and have those, and you can start talking to your students about the process. Like I said, between now and Christmas, this is our kind of our trial period. We're going to see how it goes. We are implementing them. So when I say trial period, I'm not saying we're just practicing. We're implementing them, but it's a shortened period between now and Christmas. So we're just going to see how it goes. If there are any major changes that need to happen between Christmas and the new year, then I'll look at it, I'll accept your feedback, and we'll do what we can to change it to make it what's best for you and what works best for the whole school. Since the PFI forms contain all the pertinent information about the process, parents should be pretty clear on the progressive plan moving forward. Every time you send that PFI form home, there's so much information on that form. It's very self-explanatory. If parents have questions about it and it's not something you can answer, send them to me. Tell them to call Mr. Seward in the front office, and I'll be glad to explain the process to them. Because really, parents should be on board. It's giving their children steps to improve their behavior rather than, okay, they had a bad day, they're getting an office referral. So we're trying to work to get everybody on a kind of improvement area instead of just shooting for the office. If at any time you have questions about the process, like I said, don't hesitate to ask. This is new, okay? It's a new process. It's something new that we're adding. I know we've done it in the past, but if there's ever any question about how it should work, if this should be a PFI or not, what do I do in this instance, just ask. Okay, we're all going to learn together and hopefully be successful with it. Okay. Last thing, like I said, it's a learning experience for all of us, but the goal in this process is that major disciplinary events are reduced at our school by providing clear disciplinary processes for minor events and an open line of communication between the teacher and the parent. One thing that was really impactful to me in talking to the Guiding Coalition, you should never use a PFI as a threat. You should never tell a student, I'm going to give you a PFI if you keep up, because a PFI is a plan for improvement. Okay, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to improve the behavior by going through this systematic process. So it shouldn't be used as a threat. Now, if they earn the PFI, they're going to get it, but we're not going to yell down the hallway, hey, you're going to get a PFI if that doesn't stop. Okay, that shouldn't be, just like we shouldn't yell down the hallway, you're going to go to the office, or you're going to get a write-up. It shouldn't be that way. Okay, all of our goals and plans should be to try to improve the behaviors rather than just deal with them that day and deal with them tomorrow when they happen again. Okay, so that's the idea. I know it's a lot. Does anybody have any questions right now? Yes, Ms. Bassett. Yes, substitutes, just as we do office referral, substitutes do not give PFIs. Substitutes can leave you notes, behavioral notes of what happened with students. Generally, if they leave notes, it's minor. If it's major, then we've been called down. But allow them to leave you behavioral notes. They do not give PFIs, and then when you get back, you can make that call. If their behavior requires a PFI or if it requires a level 2, which is an office referral. Yeah, Marcia.
What about other teachers? Like if I'm in the lunchroom, or, you know, somebody else is in the, can another teacher give, you know, let it,
Yes,
okay.
that's a good question, and we would handle that exactly the way we would with specials teachers. If another teacher feels that they need a PFI, then they can give the PFI, but it will need to go through, especially, well, not through the homeroom teacher, but it will need to be, once it's finalized, given back to the homeroom teacher so it can be filed for that
And the
student.
person given would make contact?
Correct.
Okay.
The person given the PFI always makes contact. Yes, ma'am.
If we have students who have already had 2 days of detention, they've had 3 debits, we've had the first conference that happened again, they got a detention, are we starting back over at PF, like the first one?
We're gonna try to start fresh when we get back from the break.
Okay.
And like we're gonna present to the students as, we're starting fresh right here. This is your trial, because when we get back from Christmas, this is it for the rest of the year. So, we're gonna start fresh when we get back from the break and we can present that.
So are you,
Yes.
What about our tier 2, tier 3 behavior students? Because I'm thinking of my friend, and these things are daily for him.
We're gonna have to deal with tier 2 and tier 3 pretty much sequentially the way we have to this point. We can try to implement some of these strategies with the tier 2 and tier 3, but that's gonna be a step, basically a case-by-case issue. You know, if we look at it and say, we can, you know, this is one of the minor incidents, so let's try it and see how it works. But for the most part, with our friend, you know, we're gonna have to keep dealing with that as we go.
I just had a question,
Yeah.
like when we're in the lunchroom, I think that Ms. Shaw was just saying, if we have to give a PFI, we call the parent, or you give it to the, let's say if it's 5th grade, or we
contact parents.
Yeah,
Yeah, so if
as
we
long
get
as
one
you-
for something that's needed.
Lunchrooms, yeah, that's an interesting case,
Yeah.
and the way we would probably need to handle that is you could communicate with the teacher.
Just whoever.
You could fill out the PFI, and
Right.
that way all the pertinent information is on
Right.
the PFI.
That's how we
But
usually
give
do
that
it.
to the
Okay.
teacher, just the way the teachers come to me with lunchroom issues that you guys have
Just make sure.
made,
Okay.
they've made,
Okay.
you've made aware to them, so we'll handle that the same. That's a great question.
Well, I'm just making sure, cause I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's a
well,
great
I think
question.
we
Yes,
wanna-
ma'am.
Okay, I'm just trying to clarify. If a teacher in the lunchroom or something is gonna give a PFI, I thought we kind of talked about, like, you would let the teacher know that they did whatever the minor incident was, and they'll do their dojo or do their clip or whatever, and it's kinda like if it got to parent contact, that's when you would give the PFI.
Yes.
Not like they yelled out in the lunchroom or something, so I'm gonna give them PFI because that's on the form.
Right, no, yeah,
Or
and you're
like,
right.
if it gets to parent contact, I would come to you and say, whatever they did in the lunchroom, so they're gonna lose a dojo or debit or whatever it is, but it would be more like, if they've lost the 3 in a day, or if they've gotten to parent contact on the clip chart or whatever, like, that's the point when they would get a PFI, not just for doing one of the things that's
You're
on
right.
the PFI form.
You're right. And, you know, your question, I'm thinking
But I think we
major
probably already
occurrences
have gotten
that,
with them if they've done it
Yes.
before in the cafeteria,
Yes.
so it's usually
It's-
sometimes the same.
it's really gonna
We do
depend on the
get them.
severity of the issue.
Right.
You know, and
That's
that's
the
the
big
big, that's going to be the challenge for all of us, me included.
Doesn't have to.
As we experience different things through this process, what are our levels going to be, and you know, what are we gonna do in this instance? What are we gonna do in this instance? And it's going to be a learning process for all of us. It is. But yeah, it's gonna depend on the severity of the issue. But like Ms. Waters said, yeah, when it gets to parent contact, if it's those issues that we generally deal with our clip downs, with our debits and dojos, when it gets to that third, then that's when we would handle it from there.
So what I hear you saying is, like, if I was in the lunchroom, I might say, hey, they need to lose a dojo point. They need
As
to make
we've
a
always
debit.
done.
And then if they drop down and that is their third occurrence, then it would be
Correct.
a PFI.
Yep.
Okay. Unless
Yep.
it was something major.
Yes.
Okay.
To support what we already have in place. So
Okay.
that's like we've always done. Okay. Is there anything else? All right. Thank y'all so much. Appreciate it.